Hello and good afternoon, everyone. This is Naishad Gadani coming to you from Melbourne, and today is the 225th episode of Career Care Package, something that me and Caroline started at the start of the pandemic in March 2020, and it seems like we are still in there. We haven't, we are still not out of the woods as yet. We expect that the restrictions will start to ease in this month and coming months, and I'm pretty excited that the Australian government is starting to open international borders. That means that
Mm.
people who want to go back to their to see their friends and family would be allowed to do that, and would be allowed to also come back to. So it's fantastic news. And today we have got Sharon Davey. You must remember Sharon was here last, probably around August, when we talked about her amazing book called Land That Job, which is around how do you really do that? How do you get a job in COVID times? And Sharon's been, a fantastic career practitioner for many, many years, and she's got a lot of stories to tell. On today's show, we are probably asking stories around self care and the importance of self care in the context of job seeking, but also in the context of what we are all collectively experiencing, the languishing, as a lot of people say that.
Mm.
Um, so, love to hear back from you, Sharon. So, Sharon, tell us about, since the time, I know you have had your own challenges too, and you have taken time to look after yourself and manage those emotions as well. But tell us about, in your experience, what is self-care, and kind of, how are we dealing with it in these times?
I think that some people are probably dealing with it better than others, and I don't know what it is that makes the difference. But I think it is. I think it is really important to do that because it's very easy, I think, to go down the rabbit hole, and it's not it's not easy necessarily, and to to do things. But I want to do a plug too because I actually the cards that you and Carolyn produced. I think that there's a lot of stuff in there that people could really use during this time for self care. I sort of picked out eight immediately. Like all the little cards. I've got them out here because I thought to myself, these cards are fantastic in terms of giving people ideas about what they can actually do. And it is, look, it's tough, I think, particularly for some industries, as we know that the
Yeah.
hospitality and the travel industry have really, and the arts industry, of those places have done it pretty tough, really, and it's it has been, I think, very very hard for them. But I thought to myself, one of the questions that Carolyn put to me was about how we neglect ourselves, and I think that's quite easy to do when we're probably trying to take care of other people as well. You know what I mean? I think that that actually happens, and also I think the other thing is that we can be. I don't want to offend anybody, but it's about sometimes we can be too serious because we get worried about stuff, and that just takes us down that hole. I mean, it's quite stressful. Obviously, we need to put food on the table, and um, we're concerned about our reputation or our livelihood or that sort of thing. And at this stage, I think too, there's sort of I think the whole aspect of negative self-talk comes into it too, where we can get worried, and if we watch too much of the television, I think that
Yeah.
that then contributes to that, where we think they're talking about all of this negativity all the time, and we can get caught up in that pretty easily. So
Yeah.
um, at my house, we don't watch the news at night anymore.
Oh, good.
There's
Yeah.
enough stuff comes on the socials and all the
Social
rest of
media.
it.
Yeah. Yeah.
without actually watching that, because so there's nothing like an old episode of Vera or something to watch that you know can give you a bit of something a bit quirky or whatever, to I
Absolutely.
think that's the thing. I think that we have to actually be proactive in that. We have to, there's I actually I know that you'll probably get to this, but about improving self-care, I actually
Mm.
wrote a whole page of different
Brilliant.
tips and things
Mm.
like that, because um, I've it's true, I've had challenges that have involved mourning. In fact, yeah,
Yeah.
a lot of that during this time. But I would want to get back to the fact that it's we can get really stressed about things and
Mm.
everything else, and that can really impact then on a job search, and that our worry is sort of counterproductive to what we to what we can be um, doing, because you won't present yourself well either in writing or in an interview if you're worried and you're stressed and whatever else. The employer's going to sense that
Mm.
you're feeling stressed or upset about something. They don't know what it's about, and so
Mm.
they'll make up their own mind. They'll sort of make something up, but that doesn't, so you won't present yourself well.
Yeah.
They won't find it as easy to connect with you,
Mm.
because one of the things is, if you get an interview,
Mm.
clearly they think that you've got, probably the skills that they're going to, you're going to need. That's not the
Mm.
question. It's really about how you're going to fit with their particular team and their whatever. And if you're coming in as somebody who is coming across as worried and stressed and upset, that's not going to help you at
Yeah.
all. And the other thing that I wanted to say about that was
Mm.
that I think that getting worried and upset and whatever means that you lose momentum that you can
Yeah.
use, because I think that momentum, and you've talked about that on one of your cards wherever it is here, and but I think that's true. I think we need to have momentum with our job
Yeah.
search, because we need, I've said for years, you
Mm.
don't apply for one job, wait and see what happens, and go for the interview if you get an interview, and then wait, and all that stuff. That's very it's a very negative way to job
Yeah.
search. You really need to be keep applying, and whatever else. And even if you're looking at it as, I'm applying for these jobs so that I can get a bit of
Mm.
practice in. And you know what I mean. I
Absolutely.
was working with someone just in the last few weeks who
Uh-huh.
had been sort of really feeling very miserable and down and whatever else. And I did quite a bit of work with her about what she
Mm.
had to offer and whatever. And
Yeah.
one day she rang me up, and I thought, who is this person? She sounded so different that, like, there was
Yeah.
just a little switch in what happened with her. And
Yeah.
she said, oh, I've been for 3 interviews this week, and I've got another one tomorrow, and
Brilliant.
blah blah blah. And then she rang me up yesterday, and she's got the job that she really really wanted.
Wow.
She'd been for um, lots of, actually suddenly things switched for her, and she'd been for a lot of
Yeah.
interviews,
Yeah.
and she'd actually got the job. So I was really thrilled for her.
Yeah.
But
Absolutely.
it took a while,
Yeah.
to get her to shift out of that
Mm.
negative sort of mindset. I had to really
Yeah.
convince her that she was worth employing, and that which was in some ways was quite silly, because she had a really good set of skills, and she
Yeah.
was lovely young woman and whatever. So
Sure.
that's,
Yeah.
but yeah, so the momentum
Yeah.
was another thing, I think, that
Absolutely.
it interferes with those, with
Yeah.
those things in there.
Yeah.
um
If I can, because what you talked about is looking after yourself first, right? I
yes.
remember first time when I sat in the flight many years back. When they do the safety instructions, the announcement was that if in a situation of blah blah blah, the oxygen mask will fall, and we want you to put the mask on before you help somebody else. And it stayed with me for a long period of time. That if my son is sitting next to me, what am I going to do? What, like, literally, what am I going to do with it? It was. It was like, no, I'm not going to do it. If my wife, my partner, my dad, mom sitting there, I would probably jump to help them, or they will also think the same way. But that's my, and it just did not sit right. I can give another example of very profound example. 2001 or 2000, we had a massive earthquake in our city. Like, hundreds of people lost lives, just,
Mm,
you know and one of my friend at that time, he ran from his home, and without taking his son with him. And when his son came out and everything settled, he just could not forgive himself for leaving his son behind and looking after himself. And that's those sort of things. It took a while for him to literally forgive himself that he did that just out of fear, out of
mm,
just like
mm.
a flight reaction to it. But that's what a lot of times we have got that, right? They're like that, guilt. It is so embedded, like we don't have to kind of think about that. We feel guilty if, if I if if my son wants help and I said, no, I'm going for a run, I can't help you, right? I said, no, I'm just constantly thinking about what are your thoughts on how have, because I'm pretty sure that this is pretty human, not necessarily just, affects me. But what are some of the things that you would ask people to do in those situations to make sure that they are not selfish, but they are still centered around what works for them at that point in time?
Well, I think it probably comes down to, are they bleeding? Um, that's that sort of thing. I'm not trying to be silly here, but it's. Uh, I don't. I think that we do have to ask for time for ourselves. I think that's really important, because unless we actually nurture ourselves and restore ourselves, we're not going to be as helpful to them. So that's the other thing to think about with that is if I'm exhausted, I can't help my grandson or my daughter or whatever. It's like um, that. So it's important that I take a rest, or that I whatever I need to do that, because then the quality of what they get will be better from me. If I'm actually restored and nurtured and whatever within myself, what I give to them will be a better quality. And that's really the way I've tried, to look at it. And I I've been guilty of being guilty in the past myself. I've worked too hard. I've done all those
Yeah,
different things, and they sometimes hard lessons to learn,
yeah.
that sort of thing, when you're somebody who does want to give to other people, but you have to give to yourself. It's been something that I've been actually really focusing on
Yeah.
this year. So that was why when you asked me on, I thought, well, this is a good thing, because I have actually been focusing on that and looking at, well, what ways can I be
Mm,
giving to myself so that I
yeah.
can give more to other people.
Yeah.
That's because that's what it comes down to.
Mm,
The quality of what you give them is going to be better, I think, if you can take it from that. But
mm,
I mean, I think running out of a building is just, I think that's pure instinct. I don't
yeah.
think there's nothing. But I do think that thing about, it would be, you'd make sure that mask went on in the aeroplane very quickly, wouldn't you? To actually get it on your
Yeah.
son, whatever. I think I can see why they say that, because if you pass out because you don't have enough oxygen, your son's going to die. Do you
Mm,
know what I mean? Like, he's
yeah.
not, because he can't be doing that for himself, depending on his age,
Mm,
obviously.
sure.
But that's what it can get down to, that
Mm,
sort of level of
mm,
thing, can't it? It can be,
mm,
this is
mm,
actually about life and death here.
mm,
you know, I
mm,
know that's
mm.
sounds a bit dramatic, but I
Yeah.
think
Yeah. Yeah.
we have to. And one of the
Mm,
things that I've been saying to people for years, I heard this in a seminar. Um, a bit over 20 years ago, where
mm,
somebody suggested to us that we become our own best friends. So
yeah.
treat yourself as you would, you know, your own best friend. So that if you're confronted with some sort of dilemma in terms of whether you should be helping someone else or not, actually say, what advice would I give to my best friend here? What would I
Mm,
do for her or him?
mm, mm,
What sort of, yeah. So
yeah.
actually, and then do that for yourself. I think it's really a good way of actually looking at it, because it's really important to be a good friend to ourselves.
Agree.
you know, um,
Agree. Yeah.
because
I
it,
remember, Sharon,
mm,
I think it's a deliberate act. My view is that, self-care is a deliberate act. You don't
mm,
necessarily, kind of what we say, by default mode, we don't look after ourselves as we should. I know Caroline saying that I find scheduling a morning activity very helpful. It seems easy to make it happen in the morning. I think Caroline is a testament of really looking after her self care, where she goes every day. I remember since the time of this beginning of the year, she goes to rain, hail, or sunshine. She's always there, going out for a walk, for a swim in the beach, and she does it. And I think that's one of those. So it's a
mm,
deliberate act. I remember 2017 or 18, when I lost a job suddenly, and I was struggling with it. I just could not get my head around what am I going to do next, though I was still in the business of helping everybody else to get a job, right? But
mm,
it was
mm,
just too sudden. And I remember at that time, one of the self-care activity that I purposefully took on was cooking, was my self-care activity.
mm.
um, you know that really gave me a kind of solace that just took me out of my frustration of not being able to find work, not being able to move forward. It just gave me that half an hour or 1 hour of pure joy. Even cutting an onion would usually I would cry, right?
Yes.
Because but this still, that gave me so much joy in
Yes.
making things that I
Yeah.
did not know that I had cooking in me.
Yeah.
I just did not know it, right? And I think
Mm.
that's what I found that really helped me throughout that difficult period. That
Yes.
I would get energy from that self care. I said, oh, I'm going to cook something today in the evening. Let me see what am I going to do it, right? So I think that's so self care could be, you can do it for your, like, just by yourself, or it could also be a team activity, isn't it? You can
Yes.
also do it with other people too. So what are some of the other self care activities that you have adopted over a period of time, and you've seen other people, doing it too?
Well, I've taken notice of some of the things that James Clear, who wrote Atomic Habits, he says that to make small changes. And what the thing you did with the cooking, that was a small change, and you did that. And for some people, it might just be simply making your bed. You know,
Mm,
getting up in the morning, making your bed. It might be getting dressed. You know, that sort of thing. Drinking more water, but whatever it is for you to be healthier or happier is that sort of to make those small changes to your habits and whatever. But some of the things that I've sort of written down here. I've actually I've talked about becoming organized. So I write things down. I write,
mm,
or I put it in my, um, diary on the device and whatever else. But writing lists, I've always been a list writer, but it really
mm,
helps me to be able to get rid of that off the list. I think I've done
mm,
that, I've done that, I've done that, that sort of thing. So I've done 6 things this morning on my list. And they're just, but it's the little things. If you get them
mm,
done, you're feeling as if you have that sort of momentum and you're getting things. But
mm,
being organized, I think, is a really important thing. And some
mm,
people think that's a bit boring, but in fact, what it does is once you are organised, it really frees you up for whatever else you want to do. And the other thing too that I had to learn, and I learned a few years back, was simply actually scheduling in some of those
Mm.
things like the leisure and the health things and whatever else, so that I use apps that
Yeah.
will tell me how far I've walked, or
Yeah.
how many hours I've fasted for, or
Mm.
whatever it happens to
Mm.
be. There's lots of things you can do these days that are
Yeah.
really very helpful, and not expensive, or free,
No,
that
no,
sort of
no.
thing. But it's about actually, once you've done that and scheduled
Mm.
in the leisure stuff. What I did when I did it first, I was being quite sort of serious about it, and I coloured different things, and I was
Mm.
a bit overwhelmed when I sort of saw all of the work stuff that was there, and there was
Yeah.
this, leisure was green, and there were these little slivers of green in amongst everything. I thought, Sharon, you've got to change this. This is not good, And so I think that's, if you
Mm.
that's actually quite a good strategy to use, is
Mm.
to on your sort of diary, and or whatever, however you do that, if you
Yeah.
do have different categories, and then color, have colors for them, you'll soon see where you're spending all of your time, and really, it's very easy to get out of balance with that, and that's why too. I think it's a really good idea. When I've helped kids when they're looking at their study,
Mm.
programs and stuff like that, I've gone, well, do you watch Home and Away or something? And they go, well, I'd like to, but, I always feel guilty about it. And I said, well, if you put Home and Away in there every night at the times that it's on and whatever else, I said, during that half hour or whatever it is, I said, just relax.
Mm.
Really, this is part of your relaxation time. So just watch it and relax while you're watching it, so that you don't feel guilty, because that's just going to get in the way of
Agree.
the
Yeah.
pleasure of it. And so what's the point of doing something if you're going to be guilty about it all the time? You might as
Mm.
well admit, yes, I watch Home and Away, and I'm going to do do that, and I'm going to actually relax with that. And then, and often they would say, oh yes, I'm going to study all weekend. I go, well, that's ridiculous.
Yeah. Yeah.
you know
Agree.
we have to have that sort of balance in our lives, or
Balance. Yeah.
otherwise, our lives do become boring, and do become not something you'd really want to live.
Mm.
But
Mm. Agree.
yeah, so I
Agree.
think that balance thing is really important
Mm.
too, and actually listening to your body. So that if in this last couple of months when I've been doing some grieving and
Yeah.
whatever, if I felt actually like going and getting horizontal for half an hour, I've done that.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think it's
Yeah.
really important that we listen to what our body is telling us as
Yeah.
well.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that we're not, we're not getting things out of whack. I think that's a really
Agree.
important strategy.
Agree. Agree.
Um,
Caroline just sent a message that I like to tick off the list versus a cross, as it gives me a sense of reward.
yes,
I
yeah,
think that's really a fantastic idea. And obviously, there are many apps and many tools and everything available to at your hands, but unless you decide to deliberately take an action,
yes,
those apps and tools have got zilch value in my view. It can be absolutely fantastic. Like for example, we've done this, cards, right? And I was speaking to one of a client, and I said, how many activities did you do? And she said, oh, I picked up two of them, and then I said, then she said they were not relevant to me, so I just put it back. I said, if they are not relevant to you, pick up another card. It's not
yes,
difficult,
yes.
right?
There's,
You
there's
can't
47 in
really.
there.
Exactly. And I said, but you can't, that bit of thing, that a small action, and specifically, like something that you do,
Mm,
has to come from you. One of my friend used to say is that, that when you start anything else, and it really stuck with me, that when you start anything else, there is no juice in the game. it's dry. It's
mm,
like you do it because you promised yourself that I'm going to do it. There is no juice in the game. The juice in the game will come when you start to do that, even robotically. Just do it. Just do
mm,
it. Keep doing it.
yeah.
And you will find some juice as you do that, rather than waiting for the juice or waiting for that inspiration. Sometimes there is no inspiration. He said, look, do you think all the athletes want to wake up at 5 o'clock in the morning and want to go for a run? Not necessarily. They just do it because they got to do it, and they find their mojo as they are doing it. I think that's been my experience too. When that, look, you got to do it. You just take
Mm,
actions, and that's what
mm,
we
yeah.
kind of came up with these cards, is that we wanted to focus on actions more than concepts, because I think concepts are there,
Yes.
but if you take action,
Mm,
that is where things will start to move a little bit around there,
yes.
isn't it?
Yeah. And the actions can be little things. I mean, one of the things that I'd written on my list, page of tips, was to help someone. Now that can be just something really little, but it makes you feel good, takes you out of yourself. But it might be walking somebody's dog, or when you mow your nature strip, you mow theirs. It might be, you know, dropping a coffee into them if you know that they're housebound. I mean, that can be really little things, but um, doing something for someone else, I think, is something, and that doesn't. I don't mean that you should mow and weed their entire garden or anything. I'm not saying that, but it is about actually, because you're just exhausting yourself if you do that sort of thing. But actually just doing little things, and it builds up a connection. My daughter that I live with is marvelous at being a neighbour. Everywhere that we've
Mm,
lived, people have loved her because she does lots
mm,
of little things for people, and
mm,
she has. We have good relationships with everybody around us here. it's
mm, mm.
it's that's what
Agree.
I think that's important too, because that's can
Yeah.
get you out of yourself. But that actually brings me back to the thing that was right at the top of the list, was about connecting with positive people,
Mm,
particularly if you're giving yourself a hard time.
yeah.
Actually connect with somebody else that you know who is either in your network, or
Mm,
they might be, just, I don't know, somebody that that is a positive person. Just
mm.
connecting with them, I think, is a really, you know, a good thing, because I think that you need to be keeping yourself as positive as possible, getting your own energy up, is really a really important sort of thing to do.
Yeah.
Um, uh,
If I can
I'm
also
just,
add one thing,
mm,
I think,
yep.
Sharon, that I think you mentioned earlier, is that in the absence of not looking after yourself, I think that pressure that that also gets transferred to whosoever that you speak with, and specifically in the context of job search, either gets passed on to your network, either gets passed on to the recruiters or the managers that you're speaking with. Either you post something really stupid on LinkedIn or Facebook that you're going to regret that pretty soon. I think that could be pretty devastating for your prospects to find work. And I think that in a way stems from that you are not really looking after yourself. And well, that frustration, that where am I going to take it on, right? Where am I going to vent that?
Mm,
I'm going to went on somebody who said no to me for a job, and that's what I'm going to do, right? And in here we've got one activity that you talked about, is that we ask people to help someone, which is pretty good. And we
mm,
also ask people to write thank you letters to people,
yes. Yeah.
three or two or three thank you letters to somebody who has helped you. And in this one, I think, what's the importance of somebody like a buddy that you can rely on? Like somebody you could say, look, I'm promising myself this is what I'm going to do. I just want you to, not necessarily hold me to account for it, but just to kind of keep checking on it. Have you done that kind of buddy system where you are also looking after somebody else's self-care activities, and how are they going?
Probably informally.
Yeah.
Yes, yes, definitely. If I ever have a career sort of question, I often, will talk to my friend Jackie, who will, because she's been in the business for a long time
Yeah.
too, and we can
Yeah.
talk about things like that there. But just in terms of, you know, perhaps other business owners,
Mm,
or just and it and it doesn't. I don't think it has to be the same person every time either. It might
mm,
be somebody who pops into your mind. I really need to ask her or him about that and see
mm, mm,
what they have to say about it. But I do think we do need to reach out to other people. As you say,
mm,
it's a deliberate self-care is a deliberate act, and I think that's the thing that we need to keep in mind, is that we
mm,
it's up to us to do those things, and
mm.
then we do get some sort of momentum going, and things are positive. And your card about optimism,
Yeah.
that's the thing there too. We um, you know the more we get involved in things, the more optimistic we're likely to
Mm,
be. And as you said, optimists get better jobs. So
absolutely.
that's the other thing there. um,
Yeah.
Sometimes we can get things from, like, an inspiring book. We might have
Mm,
particular authors that we get inspired by. That's fine. Or we might want to
mm,
create our own vision board. I know you've got a card
mm.
about that in here
Yes.
too. But or you might want to contact somebody who will make you laugh. I think sometimes that can be really useful too. Someone who'll make, who's got a great sense of humour, and, they'll
Yeah.
have a bit of chat, and that you're going to laugh during the conversation. Or you might want to watch a movie that you've watched before that
Yeah.
is funny, and watch it again and do the laughs again, because that
Yeah.
is going to, increase how
Yeah.
your level of energy and whatever. So they're really good things. I actually had written a line here: sing, dance, sew, knit, run, be silly. Do something you love to do.
Be silly.
Whatever
I
it
think
is.
I really like it. I really like that one. I think yeah, anything that really brings your mojo back, anything that gives you that sense of self back, is very, very, very important in this context.
Yes.
In fact, before I came on the show, I drew a doodle and I sent it to you, which I really liked. It is that, Bell Hooks, I'm not sure who she is, but she said something on the lines of that knowing how to be solitary is central to the art of loving or self-loving.
Mm, mm,
When we can be alone, we can be others without using them as a means of escape. That's
yeah.
pretty profound.
Yes.
I think staying with ourselves, sometimes it could be pretty challenging because you're hearing those stuff, the little voice keeps saying, nagging you continuously from the back. It's challenging. But what are some of the things that you would say, as we are coming to the close to the show, what are some of the things that you would suggest people can do, um, you know now, apart from what we talked about? Anything else that you want to highlight that people can do to look after themselves?
Well, there were a couple of other points that I did
Please.
think. One was about catching yourself when you do the negative self-talk, and
Mm,
then actually do a deliberate reframe of that, and
mm,
actually perhaps even write it down about what you would like your what that little voice in your head, what you would like that voice to be saying instead of what it's telling you right now.
mm,
So
mm,
actually,
mm.
because that's often come from childhood stuff, or whatever,
Yeah,
and it's been something that's been in the back of the mind that always gets in the way of things. And so
agree.
actually saying, well, what do I want? How do I want
Mm,
this to be? Is
mm,
can be quite quite a useful strategy to
yeah.
use. The other thing that I wanted to say was about being getting and dressing well. If you're feeling a bit down,
Mm,
that's the time to put on something that you really like, you know what I mean,
yeah.
or really you feel really good in, or whatever.
Mm,
Because I don't think there's any sort of powerhouse feeling in tracky decks, like this, just not. it's the thing about, when you see those funny memes and things, and little videos on about people who are, like the top part's looking good and then they've just got their underpants on or something underneath or whatever. So just do the whole thing, put the makeup on if you, want
Yeah,
to wear makeup, and,
yeah,
or whatever it is, actually, it's like using the best china. You might have a day where you're feeling really crap, so you get dressed, you're looking good, you put the makeup on, you use your best china, you say, I'm worth this, right? I'm not going to just save this until somebody else comes. I'm
yeah,
worth this. So do
yeah,
those sorts of things. Spoil yourself, and
yeah,
be, and again, repeating back what I said before about
yeah,
being your own best friend. Be
yeah,
the person that you know, the be the person that you will be for other people.
mm,
But
mm,
remember that really got to keep yourself. You've got to
yeah,
nurture yourself and whatever else,
yeah,
because then, as I said, the quality of what you
mm,
give other people will actually be greater. I think
yeah,
that is the thing. And whatever strategy you use in
mm,
terms of your lists and stuff, what I usually do is highlight them. I actually
mm,
highlight them because I can. Then the more highlighted bits I've got, I think, oh wow, look, I've done a lot today. It's that gives you that sort of
yeah,
boost. Um, and we haven't talked about the fact of meditating either. There's a lot of free
mm,
stuff on YouTube. Even
yeah,
just, it doesn't have to be pure meditation. It can be just relaxation. But there's a lot of
yeah,
stuff there where people can take you through different meditations, different relaxation techniques, and whatever.
mm,
And there's also with that, breathing, because if we're only when we get worried, we tend to
mm,
breathe up from up here instead of
yeah,
down in our belly, and
okay,
that has a big physiological effect on
mm,
how we are
mm,
in the
mm,
world
mm,
anyway, I think.
mm,
So
mm,
there's
mm,
lots of things you can learn
yeah,
how to do anything on YouTube, even
yeah.
meditate.
That's absolutely true. Absolutely. Look, Sharon, it's been absolutely fantastic. As always, you bring a lot of wisdom to our discussions. And Sharon, if you want to put that book again, Sharon's written a book called Land That Job.
Oh,
After get the
moving
job
forward
after,
after COVID. Yeah.
exactly, moving forward after COVID. So go get the book. I will put the link in the chat message, and also you're most welcome. We are really excited to talk about Cards Against Insanity. So if you haven't bought one, go ahead. We'll put the link
Mm.
as well. Go ahead and buy one, or gift it to somebody that you know who might be struggling to get a job that they are looking for. Been getting great reviews from job seekers as well as career development practitioners such as Sharon as well. So
Can
Sharon,
I
once
just
again,
say
thank you very much.
something?
Yes,
Can
please.
I just say something else too? Next Saturday week on the 9th, um, the Australian Career Book of the Year will be announced. And my book's a finalist in that. But
Absolutely.
the books, they're all fabulous.
Yeah.
They really, anyone could win. They're all fantastic books. And so I just wanted to say that so that people look out for that, so that it will be something that you'll probably talk to whoever's won. I hope you get to
Absolutely.
interview them, and
Yeah.
uh, I hope it's me. No, no.
Why not? In fact, we have spoken to few of them already
Yes,
as part
yes,
of this. But it's a great achievement, I think. And it's a remarkable initiative also by Lawrence Arnold, who
yes.
champions this. So I've spoken to him a couple of months back and understood what the process is and everything. So that's pretty good. So we wish you all the best for that awards
Thank
night,
you.
Zoom night. We wish that you win and come back again and share the story again with us. But in the meanwhile, please go and check out Sharon's book. Check out Cards Against Insanity. Box that you can buy. And also next week we are going to talk to Dre. We will still be playing Cards Against Insanity game. We'll pick up one or two other cards and we will talk about how people are using that and what's the background of those cards. So until we see you on next Friday. Please stay safe, stay well, and if you are eligible, go get jabbed because it's going to help us get out of this dreaded lockdown as well.
Mm.
So, Sharon, once again, thank you very much and
Thank
have
you.
a great weekend, everyone. Bye for
Thank you
now.
very much.